you're not alone. That might be the biggest one. We talked to a lot of people that.
Welcome to the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network podcast, #TheNetwork. This is episode 26. We're coming to you live inside Michigan Investment Title Studios. This episode is brought to you by Real Vision Studios. Hey everybody, it's your favorite real estate investor in Metro Detroit, Dylan Tanaka, and I'm here with the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network, #TheNetwork Roundtable Podcast. I'm super excited to be here today. If this is the first time you're watching this show, welcome to the network. We're a group of real estate investors who are focused right here in Michigan, and we buy, we fix, we sell. There's a ton of different folks in this group, and I have two of my favorite people in the whole wide world here with me today. Super excited to have them both here. We have Bryan Kunka and we have Zaid Kassab. So, without any further ado, I'm going to get this baby started. So we're going to start with Bryan. Bryan, I brought both of you guys on here today because you're pretty much doing a lot of buy, fix, and flip. So for some of the newer folks out there, that's what we call rehabbing most of the time. So we're going to talk a lot about rehabbing, why we focused on rehabbing, why you guys are rehabbing more than any other type of investing right now, and hopefully deep dive into a little bit about what's made you so successful. So for the first couple minutes, why don't you just introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are, and you know, a short little story.
Sure. So my name is Bryan Kunka. I have a business called 1701 Homes. I have a partner. His name is 𝗘𝘀𝗃𝗲𝘁, and we've been doing this now. We're finishing up our third year in the flipping business. We're approaching our 100th flip coming up here, and we work all over Metro Detroit, so Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County, and we just try to be super opportunistic, for any deal that kind of pops up. So we don't limit ourselves, geographically. If there's a deal to be had, we go to where it's at, and we've been spending the last 3 years just trying to build the right team in order to kind of execute on our vision.
Perfect. So before you were in real estate investing, what business were you in?
So back in like 2004, I started with Quicken Loans, worked with those guys until 2010, started a real estate technology business through Dan Gilbert's business incubator called 𝗦𝗲𝗯. Did that for a couple of years, worked on something called ภิkket Report. I hooked up with Todd in 2013, on a business that Todd had started with Dan called 𝗦𝗲𝗋𝗄𝗋𝗋. And then that was a free credit report, free credit score, free credit education website, very similar to Credit Karma. They started at the same time. And then we sold that business from Quicken Loans over to Bankrate in 2015. And then Bankrate was acquired in 2017. And when that acquisition happened, that's when Todd and myself both kind of stepped away from our corporate responsibilities and kind of moved back to the entrepreneurial stuff. But we've been surrounded by mortgage, personal finance, credit for most of the 2000s.
Cool. That's you have one of the more interesting and kind of different stories. I've done a lot of podcasts. I've been a guest. I've ran the podcasts, hosted, and you have one of the probably most just a different story than most people. So on a very soon to come future episode, we're going to deep dive. Bryan's going to tell us a little bit about his past, get a little bit deeper into those things that he was able to do back then, and how it's kind of brought him to have a kind of a different mindset than a lot of other investors I know today. So let's slide over to one of the coolest guys in the whole world, Zaid Kassab. Zaid, tell us, why are you here today?
Because you invited me. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. And I have to say this quickly. I'm honored to be between you guys. One is almost 20 years in the business, and you're a monster, like you're shark, Mr. Tanaka. And the other one, I'm learning every day from him, Bryan. So he's a shark in flipping business and others. So I'm honored to be between you guys. My name is Zaid Kassab, and I started real estate investing almost 5 years ago. and it was in Baltimore, Maryland. And I moved to Michigan 2 years ago. I'm a real estate agent and also a real estate investor. Being as an investor almost 5 years, 2 years as an agent as well. And mainly I do flips and rentals, and kind of I'm bouncing between them. But recently I started to focus more on flipping as well. I used to do one flip per, let's say, per season, or per a couple of flips per year. Let's say now I'm boosting that to do like 4 and 5 and 6 flips per time.
So when you say per time, let's say at the end of next year, as we're approaching that, what's your goal as far as flips go for the next 12 months?
So I kind of divide the flips per season. So I'm hoping per season to do about 4 or 5 of them. So that means we're about close to 20.
Yeah, that's a huge goal to have. So it's great to hear that. I've been quite a goal setter for a lot of years. It's something that I learned, and I think all three of us, I'm sure, we've read a lot of books, listened to a lot of podcasts, and they all say the same thing. If you don't think it can happen, it won't happen. But more importantly, if we don't put it on paper, put it in our planner, put it in whatever app we're using, and put a date on it, it's a lot harder for it to happen. Especially, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go out to the world and say, hey, here's what I'm going to do by this time necessarily. I'll talk to you guys about that, but I'm not going to proclaim it. That's not my style. But when you do put that date on there and you write it down, man, when you look at that every day and you say, I said I was going to do this by this date and I didn't, it's not a personal failure, but it means you haven't gotten to where you're supposed to be yet. And it's great to look in the mirror because, as you guys both know, you guys are born and bred entrepreneurs. Even if you didn't start as one, you know that you are one now, and it's always pointed back on us. So that's a super great point, Zaid. So, Bryan, I want to move over to you a little bit. So, like I said, and you told us, you kind of came from a different world than most people who are real estate investors, or at least the guys that we know, guys and girls around here. So when you chose, I know you said you look for opportunities where they are, but you've done quite a lot of buy, fix, and flips or rehabs over the last couple of years. I guess just explain to us or share why you chose buy, fix, and flips versus wholesales or buy and hold or maybe lending money or all the different things that we can do in real estate or just being a broker. Why did you guys lean that way, and what successes have you had?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to like the people that you surround yourself with. So I had a friend of mine that had been flipping houses for quite some time, and I started talking with him as we realized that our acquisition was coming up the second time. At the end of 2017, just kind of realized like, okay, this could be a good opportunity for us to invest. Me personally, me and my family start to invest and always wanted to flip a house. We had never done it. And we thought it could be interesting to do. And I've always kind of felt a lot of passion behind just housing in general. I've always enjoyed it. So after talking with him for a while, this was kind of the first partner. After talking with him for a while, just realized he's doing it. He understands how to do it. He understands how to do it at scale. And we could do a house or two together and just kind of see how that went. And then we decided to do that. And then, we decided to do that really quickly. And then a few months later, Todd kind of jumped on board. So there's 3 of us in the partnership. And, things went south very quickly too. And, by, 10 months into that partnership, with the first guy, we realized, he was a lone wolf. He was not a partner guy. And, there had been, there are definitely mistakes had been made. And we learned that and we quickly adapted. And, Todd and I kind of took it since October of 2018 and went head first into this business and just love the flipping business. So, but it's a crazy business. It's hard. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And every day, we talk with Nicole, who's our project manager, and she's in charge of all the craziness, right? She's in charge of all the guys and the problems. And when we end just about every phone call, it's like, do you need anything else from me? And she always says, not yet. As in, like, there will be a reason to talk very soon, because something always goes sideways or south or whatever. So it's challenging for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I've been in the business pushing 20 years now, which I don't want to brag about. It's just true. But, in full disclosure, everyone who's watching and listening, these are two guys you really want to pay attention and listen to. And I'm trying to kind of drag the best out of both of them. Bryan and I don't know each other really well. We've only talked on the phone a few times, but because of social media and everybody that we know, we're kind of interconnected. And same thing with Zaid. He came to a few different events that I was at. We've known each other a little bit longer, but I saw Bryan and Zaid talking to each other on Facebook and joking and jumping on each other's lives and commenting. And I'm thinking, Bryan seems to be super duper positive and just comes with a lot different outlook than a lot of other people do. And from, a totally different place than a lot of house flippers. And Zaid's a big mindset guy to me, but not just a mindset. He's also a tank, because when he puts that thing in drive, nothing stops him and he gets deals done, period. It doesn't matter how hard they are. It doesn't matter how easy they are. None of them are easy. But I'm telling you what, he gets deals done. So for you guys watching and listening, please listen and really absorb what these guys are talking about. Because when Bryan says it's death by 1,000 cuts, that means you don't always take a knife through the heart. Sometimes it's just this minute you get something, the next minute you get something, and you have to be built for that. And then what he just talked about, lone wolves. There's nothing wrong with a lone wolf. It's really hard to partner with one, though, because they feel like they should do everything, or they are doing everything, or whatever that is. And the 5 times Bryan and I have talked on the phone, probably the first or second time, if we can ever do a deal together, Dylan, let me know. I'm always open to it. And you don't hear that really often from someone who's been through transactions. New guys and girls are always saying that because they're looking for mentors and help, but not someone who's done 50, 60, 80 remodels in the last year or two. So again, this is why I brought these guys on, because they're super positive, they're good-hearted, and we're just lucky to have them in the network and to be members that are engaged and willing to help other people. So Zaid, I want to move over to you. I called you Mr. Mindset. So last time you and I were together, we had lunch when we were still allowed to eat together, and you talked about you want to take your business to the next level and some of the changes you are making up here to do that. And I think you're already at a pretty high level compared to a lot of people. But can you share with us what is it inside you, inside your heart, inside your mind that gives you that drive and that makes you do that extra deal or 2 or 3 every single month to get you to where you are and then where you want to go at the end of next year, like you talked about?
You might not believe it, but the guy, with us, he came to my house one time, and he's one of the guys who motivate me to do that. Maybe indirectly, but I've been really kind of afraid of doing that next level. But it just I think I don't want to say we're lucky with this time of COVID, but it just kind of this time it took me it gave me to switch my mind. It just to push me, to do what of my sorry for that, out of my comfort zone, So I was doing one per month, or not one per season, or every while, and then and I talked with Bryan, and he said, and he said, doing 1 or 2 or 3 is going to take same almost efforts of doing one, it's almost the same. So why we scale it? So I was thinking, what takes to scale it? So I'm in the middle of scaling it, but I'm in the same time, to be honest, I'm in struggle of doing that. And I'm honest guy that I say I'm struggle, because by end of the day, I'm one man show, and now I feel every time Bryan, go live and share something, I kind of literally feel it, and because I'm missing lots of elements. However, that kind of boosts me to what I'm missing, what I'm looking for as next year, to build on. And Bryan talked about his background, and kind of my background is the opposite. It's kind of, usually people start wholesaling, then flipping, then rental. I start rental, now flipping, and then kind of get my hands on wholesaling. And my kind of family, they always tell me you're different. Be like, why you're not like this someone or cousin or whatever or relative or whatever it is. And for some reason, I thought for some time I thought I'm kind of not the right way. But then I convinced myself, actually, I'm just different. I'm just not average as they think about me, and why I don't keep like that.
Yeah.
Real quick, you talk about scale for a quick second. Sorry, Dylan, I'm going to steal your show.
No, absolutely. Steal it.
So, scale it's all a mindset thing. And, when I was working at Bankrate, I met this guy in the personal finance industry, and his great grandfather, he was like the president of like the Dominican Republic, and he owned like a port, like an actual port. And he started a business that was like, they raised $30 or $40 million in investment. I started a business, through, Quicken Loans and that. I raised $150,000 in investment. And what I realized is that it's all mindset. Like to him, he comes from this mindset of, oh, my grandfather was the president, my family owns a port. Like to raise $40 million, that's a mindset thing. For me, I'm like, oh, I could start a business. I could raise 150,000. I was tickled to be able to do that. But then I just realized, like, there's really no difference. Like, it's reaching out to the people, getting them to believe in, what you're doing, and then just having the right mindset to say, hey, I can do this big. And then, of course, you need to be able to back it up and have the plan that goes with it. But at the same time, if you want to think little, like you can succeed, easily when you're thinking little. If you want to, dream big, like you can go for it. And it's not easy by any means, but I think it's all a mindset thing. And when I met with Zed during Corona, I think it was like maybe April, sat down at his house, and you've exploded since then, man. Like it's just, I've watched all of your progress. It's been really awesome to see. So that's great stuff, dude. I'm glad it's going well. So
that means you should get a percentage of Zed's success, I believe.
0%. No.
Listen,
I know how hard this is. He's doing it all, man.
This is why I brought these guys on. And again, you guys listening and watching, you got to listen deep and again, make this burn into your brain. It's these kind of guys and girls, except there's no girls on this podcast with us, but it's people like them and like me. I mean, just honestly, I always try to have a super positive outlook. Even if I cut one of my fingers off, I'm like, hey man, I got 9 left, because if you watch everything, in a fishbowl, every single move, it's frustrating and it never seems like you move forward. But we're talking about April, so that is less than 8 months ago. And Bryan is not the kind of guy who I think thinks small. He's not as big as he wants to be yet. None of the three of us are. But he's saying that Zed has exploded in 8 months, in 7-8 months. That's a huge compliment. So, and like Zed's saying, when he's coming on a live or when Bryan goes on live, he just feels great because he sees his friend who's helping him, and then vice versa. I'm sure that there are things that Zed has helped Bryan with, and vice versa with me too, both of these guys. So, I mean, just being on this show right here and for the whole network, it's just awesome to see this positivity. So I want to take a negative turn though, believe it or not. So I think we'll start with Zed because Bryan kind of left off. But so when you do have in this business, we have some tough times, man. We work till midnight. We work till 3 a.m. Sometimes things just don't go right. So when things don't go right, Zed, like, where do you turn to? How do you, it's kind of lonely, right, as entrepreneurs. So where do you go? Where do you go when you need help and you need, questions answered?
If maybe you don't believe it, is the answer is you, which is you and me and others, which is in my network. It's like, it's really blowing my mind since I started to see you in like last year, when I started network with the other investor, with other people I know. But not only the network or all going around, the RIA clubs is basically, my people that surrounded with me is my network, like, let's say, like I know some people, around me, like, whether contractors, whether other investors, whether other, people, it's basically my team, my network, my pipeline.
That's awesome. And Bryan, you've been in app development and done stuff a lot cooler than Zed and I have, but same question to you. Like, it's different being in real estate investing, right? Because there is no book. We can go to school for it, but you can't really go to school for it, right? So where do you go to find your answers when you do have just a tough time?
Yeah, real estate, it's a very, like, it's kind of a lonely business. It's very it's very solo. I recommend finding the right partner strongly for the type of stuff that we do. For us, it works. It might not be for everybody. Some people are lone wolves, but yeah, I mean, your answers come from the people you surround yourself with. So that's why, I do my best to just make sure that I, am friendly, and I talk to a bunch of industry experts in the area, and I know that, hey, I have, we haven't done a new construction, opportunity. We haven't done one of those yet. And we're thinking about it. And I know, there's a few people, there's 3 people that come to the top of my brain. That's like, okay, these guys are doing new construction. Let's talk with them and really figure it out. I'm starting to get into rentals. We just have a couple right now, just making sure that, you're having those conversations to be able to arm yourself, with the people that and then if you don't know anybody yet, then you just turn to, all the podcasts, all the content that you can absorb. I did that for the better part of a year, driving into and back from work, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, just listening to podcasts every day for just about a year. And by the time you're done with a year's worth of knowledge and, like, figuring that stuff out, you feel like you've been doing it when you haven't. So now you just need to experience it, and you just gotta go. But yeah,
that's super huge advice. I'll stick with you, Bryan. So kind of moving on from there, I've been involved in the networking world, specifically with real estate investing and running clubs and groups and speaking on stage and all that stuff for a long time. So I've been around a lot of new people, and new people are the ones, you and I have talked about this, they're the acorns that turn into the oak trees. So I'm always willing to spend time with them because, again, after almost 20 years, I've seen those acorns who have grown way larger than me now, but I'm still around them, and we can do business together. So when you're at an event, or if you're on the phone with somebody, if some new guy or girl's lucky enough to kind of get your ear, and you're like, what, let me give this person a 45-minute Zoom call. What's the best advice you can give a brand new investor that you see they've got it? It looks like they've got the fire, but they have no clue what to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So it's going to lead off of what I just said. Is one, I would absorb as much content as you can, and really try to figure out, there's so much you can do in this whole real estate investing world. I mean, from flips to wholesale to rentals to commercial properties to lending money to all sorts of craziness, apartments, syndications. So what I would do is I would absorb content, or pick a path of things that you that interest you. Let's say it's flipping. And then I would join networks like this one, and as many as you can, to just see what people are saying, see what people are complaining about, seeing what the problems are. And then I would maybe try to reach out to some folks and just say, like, hey, I'm young and hungry, or I'm old and hungry. Like, I don't care what age you are. I'm hungry. That's all that I care about. I tell my kids that all the time. Like, I don't care what grades you get. Like, I just want effort to be an A. And that's all that matters. So if you're hungry and you want to get to it, like, just reach out to some people. Anybody that's a part of these groups, they typically, they respond favorably. And if you're lucky enough, I would also just try to latch on to somebody that's doing a lot of stuff and just say, hey, how can I help you? Like, here's the skill set I have. How can I help you? How can we trade, my skill set or, sweat equity for just brute force like experience, because there's nothing like experience.
We cannot hear you.
Let me do that again. I mute myself because I talk so much I can't stop. No, I want to do a quick commercial here, just leading off of what Bryan said at the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network, hashtag the network. You can see the little blurry sign behind my head. So we're not just a podcast. We're not just a Facebook group. We're not just in-person meetings or online meetings. It's the whole real estate investing community. So, I encourage everyone, if you're watching this or listening to this and you are new, join the Facebook group. It's free, and ask your questions on there. This is when I get calls and emails, and believe me, I get Facebook messages. I probably get a couple dozen a week, and everybody is like, hey, will you be my mentor? Will you help me do this? And I just can't, because it's been hard enough for the three of us, and we all pretty much like each other. It's taken us a month to get on for a podcast, right? Because we're busy. But this is how we give back, and I'm happy to give back, but it has to be a little bit on my own terms. So that's my commercial for the group. Get on that Facebook group. If you have questions, ask them. There's no question too silly or too new or too high level, because there's guys in there and girls who've been doing business for 30, 40 years. There's multimillionaires and there's newbies too. So make sure that you get engaged on that group, because it's a big reason why I am where I am and who I am today is from networking. And this is kind of the part of the new world of networking. I still love getting together face to face. I don't just want to be a Facebook person, but it works during certain periods of time too, and you can kind of get your word out to more people. But then when you meet belly to belly, when all three of us hang out, we're going to build a rapport that, every time we see each other, we're so much happier, and then it turns into lunches and maybe deals, and you don't know 20 years down the line. So, Zaid, I want to throw the same question to you, because I know you and I are kind of more from the street, and Bryan's like this super smart computer guy, so we look at things a little bit different. So if I come up to you at a meetup and I say, Mr. Zaid, I saw you on this famous podcast with the Bryan Kunka and stupid Dylan Tanaka. Bleh, who cares about him? But you tell me, Zaid, like, what advice can you give me as a new person getting in this business? What's the best advice you can give me?
Well, I think Bryan said all, but I kind of, say it in my way. I kind of, I'm going to take it from my mistakes or the way I started. I didn't network that much. I was not really sharing and, communicating with others. So it's kind of surrounding yourself with other people that been doing it and willing to do anything possible just to learn, never ever think about how much I'm going to get out of this. I remember when I started first year, I worked like 12 hours just to get myself into construction, labor, whatever it is. Even though I could hire someone, but it's good to feel it, to do it. So same thing, what Bryan said, networking with the right people, looking for whoever doing it and learn from them, finding a mentor, educate yourself, listen to all these podcasts. Bigger Pocket is huge. The network is huge, all other resources. And then my really kind of, it's a big time advice, which is sometimes I wasn't really taking that seriously. Really tiny, bitty, micro steps, and if you keep doing it constantly every day, that's what's gonna turn stuff around. And one day you're gonna find opportunities and it's gonna turn the table around.
That is, I don't know if that's the best part about this so far, but that's what rolls through my mind. I talk to myself all the time when I'm driving and I'm in the shower, and I talk through my problems, right? And you have to celebrate those micro wins, and not celebrate like you stop working for the day, but you just say, you know what? Even when you guys make lists sometimes, right? Or if you use a planner, like I can't grab my book right now, but I use it pretty much every day. And yesterday I knocked out my whole list. I felt like a king. There was a bunch of silly stuff on there, but those micro wins, because tomorrow you don't know what kind of a tough thing that you're going to bump into. So I think that's great for newer folks and for experienced. if you're not setting yourself up to kind of really see that you're hitting those miniature goals, I think it's important to, because again, it keeps you up high, because I've been in sales my whole entire life, so I know that roller coaster. I've recently lost a big deal. I didn't lose money, but I thought I had something, and I was like, I'm almost there. I'm counting my eggs right before they hatched, and they're gone. But then tomorrow brings another deal. So that's a super great point, Zaid, and that only comes from experience. Yeah, please jump in.
Just to so I have I just turned 34, and I'm getting, I have this is again, this year is kind of, for me, is differently, and I'm restructuring everything in my life. And I set very big list of some stuff I want to change, I want to achieve, and all that stuff. Every time, like before this year, like I want to do it next week, I want to do it next month, I want to do it whatever. This time of year, I decided to do everything is different. So I took this list, whatever, like it just thoughts or goals, and then I put it down. And then the next thing, I put a goal that if not 100%, at least 70 to 80% to achieve this year, this list by, December 6, 2021, which is a year from now. So every day I have to do at least 1 or 2 or 3 from this list. I have to. If I'm not doing it, there's something wrong, and I have to reconsider. Okay. Every time I said to myself, like, I have to, wake up early. And now I just start, because I start to applying that tiny bitty actions.
Yeah, and sometimes you need an accountability partner. Some people don't need that, some do. I've had a lot of accountability partners, so if you need somebody to text you at 4:45 a.m. every day, I will, because I'm up. But I go to bed at like 9 o'clock while you guys are still having fun. So, no, but that's a great point. You got to, as an entrepreneur, you have to manage yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself. And I've said this for years. The absolute best liars I've ever met don't play poker, right? They're not attorneys. They're real estate investors, because we literally will look in the mirror and say, we're going to make 30 grand on this flip. And then we make 10, because we believe our own lies, and we get into deals we shouldn't, because we're sometimes lazy, or we have dealitis, or we just believe a little bit too positively, and that's okay, but you got to have that margin and that buffer of safety in there, because sometimes you will get hurt. So I really would like one of you guys to brag, but who wants to kind of jump in and tell us? You don't have to say how much you made, but tell us just like about the best deal, just a short like minute and a half. What was the best deal you ever did, and why was it the best deal that you ever did?
I'll go. So we try to do this at scale. So we're trying to do a lot of houses purposefully. So our best deal, like, we don't crush anything out of the park, but we got a bunch of really good ones. And most of the time, what usually happens is, I don't know, usually I got this advice kind of early on, where an early mentor of mine kind of said, your best deals are going to be your easiest ones. And it's usually not the ones that are super complex, not the ones that are super difficult. They're just the easy ones. So one of our best ones, the house was in fantastic shape. All the mechanicals were new, backup generator, roof, windows, like everything you want. We came through, we prettied up. We did a little bit of paint, and a little bit of, just kind of making it look nice. The house sold itself. It was in a great part of its city, but the family just wanted it gone. It was an estate. They just wanted it gone. There's a house that we're getting ready to purchase on Tuesday. I'm calling my shot on that one. I think that'll probably be our best one to date, but you get them at the right price, and that's what it, at the end of the day, it really comes down to your best deals are the ones you're getting at the right price. Bottom line. And most of the time they're the easiest ones. So that's my feedback.
Yeah, you make your money when you buy, unless you want to wait 30 or 40 years, and sometimes you have to, but it's just the truth. So Mr. Kassab, come on, tell us about, give some people some motivation here, baby. Tell us about your best deal, your favorite deal.
It's actually two of them, but I'm going to talk
Oh,
about.
of course, two of them.
I'm going to talk about. I'm sure Brian had got many of these, but I'm going to talk about exactly what the best ones are. The one like you almost don't feel it, you know. There was a. When I was living in Baltimore in Maryland, so I drove come back and forth to Michigan, and then there was a realtor, that I know. He said, I have a listing, blah blah blah, all that stuff is not selling, so just want to let you see it. So I saw it. I told him, this is my offer. He said, no way they're gonna accept. I said, this is my offer, yes or no? So they came back 5,000 more than asking price, which is I asked like about 40,000 below the asking, 45,000 below the asking price. I flew back to Maryland. I kind of make some calls. I hired, some stuff. I hired an inspection just to see what's in there because I'm not there. So and it just pulled up some stuff. And I spent like about 6,000 out of state, really didn't do anything, just transfer the money to funds to buy that I'm borrowing to use for another deal. Okay, I bought it 3 weeks later, fix it up, and for just paying a touch-up cosmetic, and then put it on market for same price that was listed. And gone within 3 days, 24,000 profits in 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, you got to love it. It's not always about the profit. The profit sure helps because that's what we're in business for. But it's the same old adage, and it's tired. But it's like the harder you work, the luckier you get. You got to be in the street, and this is what I try to tell these new guys. And I don't just mean new with age, but kind of those guys who are the millennial, generation, or the younger millennial or zennial or whatever. Everybody wants to hide behind the screen and not be out there. And Brian's out there constantly because he's always doing his lives from his truck and his properties. Zed is out there all the time. The first time I met him, and I didn't even tell him because I didn't want to let him know I was looking at a house on the same street. And I don't even think he knows this, but the day after I met him at a RIA club, probably a year and a half ago, it was either 2 years ago or a year ago. I think it was 2 years ago, but the next day he has this yellow coat. It's like Tommy Hilfiger or something, and I could see it. And he was on the same street as me in South Warren. We were looking at some really classy houses. He's on the same street as me, and I'm like, this guy's looking at the same house as me. So I kind of waited till he drove away, and it was a day later, there he was. And but being honest, Zaid is always out there. He's always doing business. He has his real estate license also, and I know he'll take clients on, limited clients, but he'll take them on. And unless he's spending time with his wife and kid, and I know the same thing for Brian, and all of us who have families, you're working 24/7, man. I mean, that's what this business is all about. I get texts at 2 a.m. I mean, I'm not going to answer them, but I'm on all the time because when that opportunity pops up, whether it's for a deal or a partnership or money or vice versa, you just never know where you can kind of slide in and remind people that you are there, especially if you're a giver, and both of these guys are givers, and they understand that you have to have a giver's mentality if you want to have a big network. You can be a taker, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're only going to get so far because you're going to get sniffed out, and people just aren't going to want to be around you as much because you got to put money in the bank before you take it out, and that's just something that you have to focus on. So I want to use both of your guys' business brains really quick. And like in a minute or two, we're coming close to the end here, but in a minute or two, can you break down what you look for very quickly? I know how to evaluate a deal in 30 to 60 seconds when someone's just telling me about it. But why don't you guys each go through how you evaluate a deal very quickly, as maybe as you're driving up or you're just looking at it on a piece of paper?
Zed, you first.
Me first?
Yeah.
You put me under the spot. So, where to start? So, basically, kind of, looking for, of course, distressed property, like not looking good. And then, kind of, I know the numbers, what's the ARV after repair value. not only more repair, renovate value, but anyway, so kind of, check the numbers and kind of, from my experience, I evaluate the construction costs, and I look into opportunities. Like, I really look into the neighbor, who's going to live there, how I'm going to finish it, the level of the neighbor, and all that stuff. So I don't know if that explain it.
Yeah, no, I think it's quick and dirty. I'll jump in really quick. When I was buying foreclosures back in 6, 7, and 8, I was the guy who ran and looked at them most times. I had a couple partners, so I'd look at sometimes 20 houses in a day. This is more on the east side in Roseville and East Point, and I'd literally run down to the basement, look at the 4 walls, look up at the plumbing, look at the electrical, look at the furnace, kitchen, bath, roof, gone, and on to the next house. And I could knock out 20 houses in a couple hours. Now, they were all close to each other, but I knew what I was looking for in 10 seconds. And then I would drop my wholesale flyers off in the foreclosure that was also on that backside promoting our real estate events for the RIA. So I was always taking advantage. But go ahead, Bryan. Tell us your quick and dirty.
Yeah, so basically, whenever I pull up to a house, so we don't list any of our own properties. We have real estate agents that we work with. There's basically 3 agents that we work with in total, one more than the other 2. And anytime I'm going to look at a house, like everybody's going to hate me for saying this, but like typically I'll throw it into Zillow, see what the Zestimate is, just to get a super quick and dirty number. That way I know what the kind of average is, and I know that whatever the Zestimate is, I can go usually way above that. So once I see that there's enough spread in the property, at least to begin with, I'll send it over to our real estate agent and just lob them a quick call and say, hey, can I get $200,000 for this house? And they'll say like yes or no. And then I'll go and I'll look at it, and going in based on the thought, okay, this particular house is worth $200,000. I know it's 1,000 square feet. Based on our numbers, I know that our rehabs are about $30 a square foot. So I'll do 200,000 times 0.75. And that basically gets rid of our real estate commissions, our cost of money, because we use investors to fund all of our deals, and 10 to 15% profit per house, just depending on the price of the ARV. And then once we do the after repair value minus the or times 0.75, then we subtract off the rehab amount, which I know on 1,000 square feet is probably going to run me about 30 grand. We don't do any of the work ourselves. We subcontract everything. And then I know, if that number is in the ballpark. And then once I get inside, I'm just taking a look, and I'm trying to look at the stuff, Dylan, you were talking about. Like, is there anything that is sideways? Do I need to replace a roof or a furnace, or is there a foundation issue? Is there heaving cement outside, that type of stuff? If not, then it's just like a normal house, and my $30 a square foot usually accounts for new kitchen, updated bathrooms, paint, floors, fixtures, that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty simple when you're rehabbing. I was doing probably 20 a year was at my height rehabs. It was a lot easier to find them back then, and I did a lot of my own acquisition too, so I wasn't typically buying from wholesalers. I was buying them myself and kind of cutting that wholesale fee back into my profits. But you get to figure it out really quick. $35 a square foot is what I was at back then in the Birmingham, Ferndale, cheaper Birmingham, Ferndale, Royal Oak areas, and that did everything. But I'm a licensed broker, so I list my own. So we have a little bit of difference there. But you guys look at that. I mean, Bryan has done a lot of deals in the last couple of years. He's obviously extremely intelligent, and he still jumps on Zillow really quick to get a again, quick and dirty while he's driving to a property that some guy like me who's wholesaling says, check this one out, because at least gives him a semi baseline, and then he goes to his expert. So instead of doing everything himself, he does nothing but make big decisions, and he doesn't even take calls from other realtors, right? He's got other people doing that for him. So 2 different mindsets here, even 3 if you look at what I'm doing. But again, this is something that you guys need to absorb and understand how lucky you are to hear from, exactly from these guys, what they're doing. What Bryan just told you right there is worth more than you're going to get from any $20,000 mastermind or boot camp that you go to. And I've been to a lot of them, and I've run them and been around them for a long time. That's the real deal, because you can go to Florida or you can go to Phoenix and you can learn how to flip houses. But Bryan Kunka and Zaid Kassab are telling you what's actually happening and the truth right here in Michigan. So don't look past that, and you should be taking notes on this stuff, and don't take it lightly. You don't get this information everywhere. So
I actually, Dylan, I actually have a pro tip based off of what I just said. One of the things that I'll do, I jump at almost everything that kind of comes across my path. But the thing that I like to do that I would highly recommend is I go out there anyway. Even when I look and see, it's thinner than what I want, you go out there anyway, and you go back to your belly to belly kind of conversation. You see the wholesaler either in person, or most of the time recently it's just been on the phone, but you're out there, you're talking about the house. And the thing that I always ask, yeah, you know what, this one, it doesn't work for us. I'll do one of two things. I'll say, I know a guy that may be interested in it. Did that this morning, sent a house I looked at yesterday that I passed on over to him. He told me that house also sucked, so we both moved on from it. But I try to introduce to somebody that I know. And then the second thing I always ask is, do you have anything else coming up? And you have no idea how many additional leads that usually leads to. And most importantly in this, a lot of times you get a first look, I got one in the works. It should be closed. I should be getting it under contract in the next 2 days. I'll call you first. And then that first look is huge.
That's, you guys, take that one to heart. I learned that with the foreclosure brokers in the old days. So I would call and they're like, hey, this thing's already sold. What's wrong with you? I'm like, that's okay. I want to buy the worst listing you have now, and I want to be first in line for all the other crappy ones that come too. And then you just if you become a resource, it's very simple. Bryan is a resource. Zed's a resource. I'm a resource. People come to you. Opportunities open up. Answer them with a smile. Even if they're terrible opportunities, you never know. It might not be terrible to that next person. I've bought and sold a lot of properties when I'd first looked at it and said, oh boy, this is bad. Bam, they go right away. I get one I think is special, like the Farmington deal, Bryan. I was like, this is going to be great. Nobody wanted it. So you've got, and again, what Bryan said, man, you got to be out in the street, and you got to be just bumping into people. I know it's a little difficult right now, but it won't be soon. So you have to be out there. So as we're kind of rounding third base here and heading home, the question I ask at the end of every one of our network roundtable podcasts is kind of what we call golden nuggets. So if there's one piece of advice that both of you gentlemen can give to the listeners, whether they're new, old, billionaires, or just millionaires, what would they be? Why don't you go first, Zed?
Well, basically, learn every day. Take that micro steps, and then network with others that been doing it. And I guess most importantly, find that one piece of art, that thing that you really like to do in your life, and just go for it. All for full force, what want to do, and then from there, find out you might end up doing something else, or thinking about something else, but just do what you like to do, what you're better at. Okay, you don't have to be from A to Z in that one business. You pick up your thing, and then you outsource the others, and that's the success, and that's the growth.
That's awesome. I love that. Mr. Kunka, what do you got for us?
Maybe three things. One is be grateful. Be grateful for what you have and where you're at. Two is provide value. See how you can provide value to others. It's the whole the more you give, the more you get. And three is try hard and break things. And you know what, you're just gonna keep falling on your face, and eventually you don't anymore. And you just learn from your mistakes, make a ton of mistakes. Mistakes are okay, they're expected. any of these real estate investors are like, oh, I've never lost money, or oh, everything's gone great, or anything that you see on Facebook, like it's just not a lot of reality associated to how amazing this stuff is. So I would just say, like, you're not alone. That might be the biggest one. We talked to a lot of people that, I was talking to somebody, did a flip, lost money on it, had a bad experience. Like, dude, you are not alone. Like, this stuff happens, and what I would say to combat that is, if you do many projects, you're allowed to try and fail forward to where you're learning, and then the next one gets a little bit easier and then easier. And then you're like, I'm still failing all the time. Like, we fail all the time. But we're doing so many houses now that it's really minimized the risk. So more houses for us has actually minimized the risk. It's increased risk in other areas. But I think the little nuggets that I think of is, I just always try to be grateful. I always try to add value to others, and don't be afraid to break things and fail.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Zaid, please.
Sorry for interruption. So, just Bryan motivated me to say more. He says something very important. Actually, failure is now my friend. My best friend is failure. To be, to test and kind of experience being, failure, because from that failure, from that experience, you're gonna be, you're gonna come out or come back even stronger. And believe it or not, when I met Bryan, like, that conversation in last April, I was in middle of, kind of not the best situation, situation, and kind of the partnership wasn't the great, but I end up with great results. Even though my profit should be 3 times what should be, however, that experience, it just taught me a lot, and kind of give me one of the experience give me, to boost to do more and scale more.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's what happens. It's like when you guys look at my face, talk about falling on your face and failing forward. That's me. That's why I look like the way I do. My worst deal ever is a negative $50,000. I've talked about on multiple videos, and I'm not afraid to share it. And it was almost a super home run, but it didn't end up being one. But I learned a lot from it, and I learned that I will not partner with anybody who reminds me of that person anymore. But you can't be afraid to fail. And I'm a high school mentor with a nonprofit called Winning Futures. I've been there 10 years, so I have had high school seniors from 10 years ago to the present, right? And they've become more and more and more afraid to fail. And some of the employees I've had, or people who've worked for me or underneath me, or even some mentees I've had in this business throughout the old years, they're so afraid that they're going to do something wrong. And as long as you're not lying and cheating to people, it's okay. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to do that. But then, like I talk about all the time, you want to avoid those landmines next time and listen to guys like Bryan and Zaid who are telling you what to watch out for, so you don't have to fall on your face the same way that we all have. So, guys, I super, super appreciate you for being on here. This was really one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done. I've never said that before. Watch all 1 million of my episodes, and you'll see I'm telling the truth. I really am. But before we go, if there's something that you guys kind of want to brag about, or just give out your website, how people can get a hold of you, I'll put your information. We'll have the admin put it all below in the show notes. But if there's something you want to talk about, or push one of your websites and have people come up there, or follow one of your pages, this is the time to talk about it.
Yeah, so you have the 1701 Homes Facebook page on there for us. So that's where we provide all of our updates. Nicole, who handles our project management, she also handles our social media, and I don't know where she gets the time to do it, but she does our befores and afters and all sorts of stuff. We do quarterly updates and monthly updates to our investors. So we try to share as much of what we're working on that page. Also, I do something called the Flipping Reality, which is kind of this Facebook Live series which you can see usually on the 1701 Homes or my personal Facebook page, which is just my name. So feel free to check that stuff out. And, we're always looking for deals. So if you come across anything, Metro Detroit, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County, Washtenaw, I would love to talk with anybody that would be interested in potential opportunity down the road.
Beautiful, Bryan. Thanks.
For me, I haven't yet structured like a brand name for me or for my page, but people can reach me on my page or my account on Facebook or wherever else social media. Just basically Zaid Kassab, and my cell phone is 248-346-1194 as being a real estate agent or investor for whoever wants to buy or sell. Especially work with lots of investors, and I'm honored to be with you guys. It's really an honor. And if you guys also, you can text me for if you guys have deals off market, on market, whatever it is. And we give, of course, if off market, we give a finder fee for that.
Yeah, so all you newbies out there who are trying to build your buyers list, you got two of the biggest buyers in Metro Detroit right here on the show with all their contact info, so take advantage. So Zaid said he's honored. Let me tell you what, I'm honored to have both you gentlemen on here. The network's honored. We're super lucky to have you in it, be engaged, and you can find these guys day to day, not every minute of every day, but you can find them on the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network. So make sure you're on the group. That's the only pitch that I have. You'll find me, you'll find these guys and other people doing business right here in Michigan that you want to be doing. So for the network, I'm Dylan Tanaka, your favorite real estate investor in Metro Detroit, and Bryan and Zed, you guys all have a wonderful day. We hope you found a lot of value in today's show. If there's anything we mentioned and you missed it, don't worry. We take all of the notes, and you can find them at MichiganREINetwork.com/episodes. If you want to meet any of today's guests in person, you can usually find them at a #The Network meetup in Metro Detroit. You can find all about the network at www.MichiganREINetwork.com. By the way, if you're new, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes of this show. This brings us to the end of another episode of #The Network Roundtable Podcast. And as always, share the love.